I'm Junior from Here for You Life Coaching. We're going to discuss this today, how it happens, why it happens, and most importantly, why you need to break free of this societal social conditioning. Not for any other reason other than you need to truly form your own opinion. And if you are, let's say, subject to the hypnosis, if you are subject to things that you're not even aware of that are going on in here in the kingdom, then you are polluting the kingdom. Polluting in the sense that these are not your thoughts. These are thoughts that are being placed in here. Okay? What does that mean? Well, ideas that you get that are not your own. They are separate from you, but they are projected onto you. Therefore, you begin the contemplation that starts to distract you from your life path, from your purpose, from your natural state of being. If this goes a little deep, hang in there. I'm going to break it down. A long-term, low-grade trance is what we are living in. And that trance takes shape and evolves. That trance evolves because it starts out as something and it morphs, if you will, into something else. It develops. Okay? Neuroplasticity, tells us, right, that our brain is plastic. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it's not fixed. It's moldable, it's shapeable, it's changeable. You just have to decide. So, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be with? What kind of person do you want to be with? What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of life do you want to live? What kind of beliefs are you allowing in the kingdom? How do you believe? So what's most important is how you believe in yourself. What you believe about yourself to be true after you take away all the programming. After you take away all the influence. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to break you from the hypnosis. I'm here to pull you out of mental slavery. If you're running on a program that's not of your own making, you have been conditioned. How do you know this? Because you go, I can't help it, but I did this. I couldn't help myself. I had to do this. I had to make this. I had to say this. I had to act like that. I had to react like that. I had to. Oh, okay. Who put that idea in your head? Oh, well, I saw it on TV. Oh, I saw it in the movies. So this is part of the conditioning. When you go to a movie, it's a blockbuster. Millions of people see this movie. And how do we relate things to each other? We go, oh, well, remember when this happened in the movie? Remember when that happened in the movie? Remember when, these things happened in the movie? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember. Now you have alignment. Now you have two people agreeing in alignment with the same thing. What does that mean? Well, in the Bible, it's said this way. When two or more come together in my name, it shall be done. You see? When two or more because now you have alignment. You are aligning with someone. You are aligning an idea. You are aligning a reality. You are aligning a concept, be it your own or otherwise. Everyone has their own perception. Good morning, guys. Good morning, William. Good morning, Steve. Everyone has their own perception. So what does this mean? Can you change this? Oh, yeah, of course. If you're tired of the life you're living, change it. Oh, how do I do that? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. Because there's an infinite number of realities here. Infinite. You couldn't count them, but you can choose them. Think of how many variations of a car you could think up. Let's call it a Mercedes. Okay. How many colors are there? Okay. What are the options? How many options are there? Okay. So you can go on the website and you can build your own. Okay, I want this color, I want this, I want that, I want this, and you can rearrange the options. Okay, I want this one, but I don't want that. I want this other thing. And okay, now you've put the picture together, and now you have a product. You couldn't always do this, but now you can do it. So with AI, it's unlimited. AI is the physical expression of the internal workings of the human being on steroids. So this is where you get 3D printers. If you slow that process down, if you think it through and you go, oh yeah, humans can do that too, but it's a process. Of course you can. But you're watching the movie, you're watching the story. Okay, stories are important to humans. Why? Because it gives us visuals. Visualization, right? It gives us a picture of something. So when I did my comedy career, okay, it was very important to me to choose the right words, because the right words project the right pictures. Let me give you an example. So, if I'm talking about hanging up a phone, and it was in the course of an argument, so I'm telling the story, a funny story about a guy that's losing it because his girlfriend just broke up with him, and they're on the phone, and he's angry. Now, if I want to make it funny in someone's head, it's about the descriptives, it's about the adjectives, it's about words that imply action, words that paint pictures. So here we go. Just visualize the difference between he slammed the phone down, he pounded the phone down, he threw the phone down. You see? You see how they're all different images? So you can say, he punched the guy, he slammed the guy, he belted the guy, he pounded the guy. You see? But when you take this in a comedy sense, and you want to push the envelope so that this becomes a funny event, like a cartoon, right? Cartoons are extreme for a reason. Cartoons are very violent. We were raised boomers were raised with probably the most violent cartoons ever. But it was funny. Why is it funny? Because it's an extreme. So if you illustrate in words, if you're painting or constructing visuals with words, you need to choose the extreme words that you think will be funny because you're painting this cartoon with words in everyone else's mind. And radio is called theater of the mind. Very few people master the theater of the mind. Very few people understand it. But this theater of the mind is in television, it's in radio, it's on social media. Okay? And this is why they say question everything. Question. People don't question, they go along with the story, they laugh, okay, and then on to the next story, then on to the next story, and on to the next story. Then what happens? Well, like Esther Hicks says, now you're ready to be ready to be ready. Why is that? Because you have been prepared, you have been conditioned, because all that information is in here. It's in your subconscious. As you think about it more and more, or let's say it another way, as you enjoy it more and more, as it solidifies in your subconscious as a belief, it starts to act out in the physical world in your life. And then you go, why do I have so much drama? Why do I have so much pain? Why do I have so much emotional strife? Okay, so you can say pain, you can say strife, you can say agony, you can say suffering. Gautama Buddha said, the man who sees life as an illusion escapes suffering. What are you going to identify as the illusion? Some people identify illusions like, oh, that's only for him, because he knows something special, so he became a billionaire, he became a multimillionaire, he became a, right? He's making $100,000 a year, so he's making more than me because, well, he's educated, he's special, he's excuse. Do you really feel this way? Probably not. You've probably seen images of people, or you've probably seen people react that way. And then alignment happens. You go, yeah, he's right. Yeah, that guy's a scoundrel. He's right. Yeah, whatever I'm saying. But when two or more come together in his name, who is his name? His name is I am. I am I am. You are I am. When you come together in alignment, let's say this another way, with the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious, all three states of awareness. Okay, the key word is awareness in you. Now you have an agreement. Now you have a contract. Now you have alignment. Now manifestation happens. Can you do it alone? Of course. Can you do it with two people? Of course. Can you do it with 100,000 people? Yep. Two heads are better than one, right? Two heads are better than one. What about 100,000? What about 1,000,000 people watching a movie? That's why we see those commonalities. Because it gets uploaded into consciousness. These become internalized beliefs. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. So let's say, for example, you're thinking about loss. Let's say you're mourning, okay? That's a normal process. But pretty soon, as you mourn, right, you have something else to mourn. And I don't mean something else passed away or died or anything like that. I just mean something else negative. And then another, and then another, and then another. How do you set yourself free from this? Change your mind. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization will break you from the bond. Okay, I always use this because it's extreme. It's an extreme visual. The bond, the thing that holds you inside, which is actually your subconscious. Do you believe in demons, negative energy, dark energy, these things? So, dark energy is the opposite of light energy, dark and light. Dark energy is necessary. Dark energy is the result of the absence of light energy. When you let your light shine, when you come from light, when you come from love, when you come from that energy, that default energy that you were born with, everything starts to work. Does it go away? Sure. Yeah. Why? Because ideas happen, because movies get seen, because you cannot just isolate. All opposition is controlled. All opposition is controlled at the spiritual level, at the energetic level. You're not your body, you're not your name, you're that energy that lives in here. What controls dark energy? Light energy. It's a balance. So, how do we manifest? Well, you find your balance, you find your rhythm, and you pull yourself out of the box. Our vocalization process forces people out of the box. Whoa, how does it do that? There's a separation between the body and the spirit. The spirit, or let's say your energy, or let's say your soul, or let's say what lives in here. There's a separation between that and your body. Your body is the physical interface into the physical world. So in religion, they tell you, well, Satan is the king of the physical world. Yeah, figuratively. Why is that? Well, because sinning is done with the body. We went over that a little bit yesterday. I'm going to reiterate this because we're going to take this to a new level today. Wallace D. Waddell said that religion is the science of sin. What does that mean? Well, if you study sin, if you're researching something that speaks of sin, so the topic becomes sin, it becomes the study of sin. Where is your focus? That should be the real question. Are you focused on sin? Are you focused on demons? Are you focused on dark energy, or let's say dark energetic forces? Or let's say the absence of light forces, or the absence of good things, or the absence of good intentions, or the absence of good energy? Okay. So let's look at the 50 percentile. This is positive, this is negative, this is good, this is bad, this is light, this is dark. When you start to move over here, okay, 51%, the balance shifts, the paradigm shifts, the understanding shifts, the mind shifts, everything shifts. Why? Because you have a perception, because you have a subconscious, because you have awareness, because you are awareness. Then what happens? Well, you can grow that very easily now because the majority is positive. So now you can go to 52, 53, 55, maybe 60%. So when I take in clients, sometimes, not always, but sometimes I say, how positive do you think you are? And the root of that question is think you are. And the average person was, well, I'm probably 80 or 90% positive. That's a lot of work, okay? Because we're human beings. Because information that we receive is not 80% good, okay? And what are we attracted to? Well, human beings. We're humans. Negativity bias. We're attracted to negativity. This is why when you watch the news, right, it's all drama until that last story, and then they leave you with a sense of hope for the day. Okay. That was a good news show. That was a good experience. Why? Well, you had all this negative stuff, and then at the end, they showed you a puppy, and you went, okay. You see? You see? All right. Now let's take a look at some stages of your vulnerability. Stages. Okay. Hypnosis, illusion, things you think to be true, perspectives you feel to be real. You're a spiritual being having a physical experience. You can either think something or you can know something. Stage 1, self-hypnosis. The one-person influence. Well, okay, so I can hypnotize myself into a reality. Sure. Affirmations, meditation, focalization, visualization. How long will this last? How long does my affirmation work? It needs to become your lifestyle. Okay? Lifestyle. So let me show you lifestyle. So this is the new one of my lifestyle, that much. And then the previous tablet of lifestyle. And these are subconscious affirmations. Subconscious. Okay. This is taking control of your mind. Because if you don't control your mind, somebody else will. And it's not one entity, it's not one person. This is combined narratives that happen. This is the result of combined narratives. And you have lead narratives. This is why mainstream media is a thing. They latch on to the lead narrative, and then they start doing. Everyone else follows the lead, much like human beings will follow a leader. Now this is it, and are they forced to follow? Well, kind of, yeah. Because when things come out in mass, and you're that one dissenting voice, you're that one entity that says the emperor is walking around in his underwear. The others will look at you like, he's crazy. She's crazy. Why? Well, because everyone else over here in mass is believing this. So Well, let's hop on board. Okay. Hypnosis begins inside. The voice we hear most is our own, telling us an exterior narrative. You hear it in your voice. You hear your thoughts in your voice, therefore, you think it's you. It's not you. Your awareness. You're witnessing your thoughts. You're observing your thoughts. You're hearing your thoughts in your voice, thinking it's you. Who's doing the observing? That's the magic part, if you will. Magic. If you want to say it's magic, it's not. It's not a magic spell. It's not a witch doing this to you. It's not a warlock or, right? It's not all of that. What is it? It's your subconscious. It's you. You are a powerful being. Powerful. But when you surrender the kingdom, okay, you are the king and queen of the kingdom, respectively. But when you surrender the kingdom, what do? You say, okay, I'll let another king rule my kingdom. I will let that king over there rule this kingdom. Now you have a new king. Now you bow to a new ruler. And in that process, you have surrendered your kingdom. Why would you do that? Why would you surrender your kingdom? Oh, well, if you're not aware of the fact that these thoughts, these words, these deeds are coming from elsewhere as a result of influence, as a result of hypnosis, then you are being externally operated, like much like a game. Okay, I used to play Grand Theft Auto, and I had the controller. I made the game do what I wanted it to do. So in this scenario that I'm describing, you take your controller, you give it to somebody else, and you say, okay, you do it. I'll just follow. I don't need to lead. I don't need to lead my own life. I don't need to take charge of my own life. I will let the autopilot happen, and here, you do it. And that all happens in your subconscious. Over and over and over and over. Wash, rinse, repeat. Day to day to day to day to day. Dr. Joe Dispenza describes it in another way. He uses a lot of technical terms. I break things down so people can understand it. So today you have these experiences. You live these things. You worry about these things. You have this drama. Okay. Now, if they're unresolved, if you have not resolved them, tomorrow when you wake up, guess what? You're going to think about yesterday's problems. Now you've brought them into today because you are living one long now. This is one long awareness. Until the opposition can no longer be upheld. What is that? The opposition, the Hasatan, the Satan, the opposer. Who's the opposer? The physical world, the physical body, the physical everything. Everything physical deteriorates. Everything physical goes away. Everything spiritual is eternal. You're having this experience now. You live one time this way. And that's all you need to know. Right? Well, almost. Because so many people are unhappy the way their ship is going like this. Because there's no rudder. Because the ship goes over here, then it gets led over here, then it gets led over here, then it gets pulled over here, then it gets pulled over there, then it gets pulled over here. And where are we in this scenario? Well, We're not behind the wheel of the ship. We're not steering because there is no rudder. So now what have we become? Oh, we're the passengers that are just experiencing this ride back and forth. No direction, no rudder. A rudder says we're going here. We're going to do this. We're going to go here. We're going to do that. And then victim mentality happens, right? Oh, this is always happening to me. Oh, those rich people, they're doing all this stuff. Oh man, the crime. Did you see the crime in this neighborhood? Oh, I can't live here anymore. This is terrible. We're being attacked. You're being attacked here. The prison is here. Bob Marley talked about mental slavery in his music. He was teaching the kids something. He was teaching his followers of his time something. Was it truth? Oh, yeah. Yeah. But you have conditions. You surrender to conditions. You surrender to ideology. You consent. You consent to these things. You agree. You say, okay, here's an idea. Okay, I agree with that. Now you join. Now you join. A lot of people enjoyed my comedy on the radio. They had no idea it was being done deliberately. It was the words I was choosing that illustrated the picture that made it funny. Even the people I worked with, only one guy, the lead guy that I worked with, it was his show, it was his radio show that I was on. He was the only one that understood what I was doing. And one day, when we went off the air, he looked at me and he said, you know, it takes a really smart guy to play a dummy on the radio. And that was probably the highest compliment of my time in radio. Because I was like, oh, busted. He knows. Okay. But he had an understanding. He understood what we were doing. Many people in radio don't understand what they're doing. Okay, they're just either acting stupid or over the top or yada yada, but they don't understand the mechanics of how it works. They understand that they have this ability, they understand that they have this knack of entertaining people, but they don't understand the mechanics at the psychological level. Okay, so stage 3, small group influence. Social hypnosis. Small group influence. The things that happen in small groups. Your church organization, your YMCA, your nonprofit, your, like that. Okay? Who decides for the group? You have a leader. You have to have a leader. When you have a leader and your leader is successful in communicating, okay, the bottom line is communicating, then what happens? Oh, then you have alignment. Everybody falls in line. Okay? When they fall in line, now you have alignment. Now you have strength. Now you have a good organization. Why? Because this person has brought everyone into alignment. And this is the same thing as the Bible talks about. If 2 or more come together in my name, it shall be done. What does that mean? It's said many ways. 2 heads are better than 1. Why? Because it manifests quicker. So when you watch these movies, 5 million people, 10 million people, 20 million people worldwide, these things begin to manifest into consciousness because it's being uploaded into consciousness. Because there is the superconscious, or God, or universe, whatever you want to call it. God does not judge. God is power. God is strength. God is love. God does not judge. If you're a part of a group or church or temple or monastery or whatever it is that is teaching you through fear, guilt, and shame, you need to question. Because when you break free of the hypnosis, you're only left with the truth, and the truth will set you free. Let's say it another way. When you identify the hypnosis, when you dismiss the hypnosis, when you question the hypnosis, it will reveal itself through your subconscious. But you have to question. You have to seek, so you will find. Where do you seek and find? In the temple, in the kingdom. Okay, this is the kingdom. This is the temple. Ask, believe, receive. Mark 11:24 for you Christians. How do you do this? Ask. But when you have been conditioned to doubt, when you have been conditioned to fear, when you have been conditioned to look at something and go, oh, I better do this because I better fall in line with this because that'll happen, or this or that'll happen. You're operating out of fear. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Think about that. Those are words of wisdom. Consequently, he pulled everyone out of depression. Stage 5, mass media influence. Ooh, that's a big one. National level hypnosis. I'm not going to go into all of that. I've already mentioned a lot about it, but that's a thing. It's a thing. Look it up. Stage 6. This is what I just mentioned. Cinematic influence. Global emotional hypnosis. How do I feel about a certain thing? How do I feel about this policy? How do I feel about the government? How do I feel about religion? How do I feel about something? That's a thing. Because when you impress your subconscious with emotion, you manifest something, good or bad, depending on the emotion and the topic. Conscious, subconscious, superconscious. So when you're in a meeting and you feel a vibe like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, that's your barometer. That's your moral compass. You know how many professionals right now are being forced into what they consider immoral activity in the name of commerce, in the name of business, in the name of money. Money is not the evil. It's the intent behind what the money is doing. It's the intent behind how the money is being made. Money is an energy. You can call money through your subconscious. But if your subconscious contains negative programming, okay? Conscious mind is your operating system. The subconscious is where the programs are stored. The superconscious is the network we're all plugged into. Awareness in here. But when you feel inferior, when you feel like, oh, I don't belong to anything, I'm here, it's just me, I'm out here amongst 8 billion others. I'm powerless, right? Wrong. You're very powerful. But you need to access the power. You need to choose the power. Let's say it another way. You need to choose God. The God within. You need to choose the light. Your light is your strength. Your light is your natural gifts, your natural abilities. when you access the truth will set you free, but you need to access the truth. Okay, it's like oil. Oil just doesn't shoot up from the ground by itself. You have to drill for it. And then you go down, 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 down. Pretty soon, boom, strike oil. I use this scenario with my clients all the time. I said, okay, we're getting there. We're going to hit oil soon. And what I'm talking about is the voice in the vocalization process separates the illusion, okay? The illusion between the two. What is this? The physical world and the spiritual world. It separates the physical, and then you go, oh, I see it. Why? Because the mental slavery dissipates. Because all these ideas that you think are yours, some of them you think are yours, some of them you realize are others. But these beliefs that you have, that are fed to you, that allow for this division, that allow for this suppression, that allow for this separation between I can and I can't. Yet you are I am. And you're witnessing this, you're looking at this, you understand this. Yet you go along to get along. Why? Well, it's not fun to stand there as the little child saying, Your Majesty, you're walking around in your underwear. Nobody wants to tell the emperor. You can tell the emperor, you'll have to stay in your own lane. That takes guts. Why? Well, when you stay in your own lane, when you build your own understanding, when you direct your own mind, when you build on your own perception, right? People will say, well, you live in a fantasy world. I was told that my whole life. Now, when I search myself on AI or Google or whatever, browsers, everything from 12 years old just went straight across the web. And it materialized. Now, in the old days, you weren't able to see this happen. So preconceived judgments, I want to say judgments, right? This is why they say, judge not and ye shall not be judged, because you will be judged by your judgments. Your judgments will turn around and bite you in the behind. Why? Because your subconscious learns to judge. Then you become judgmental. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Then what happens? Well, now you think that, you're better than this guy because you're not like that. So you judge that. And whether you're right or wrong, or in a better position than him or her, or in a lower position, or however you quantify that, or however you see it, or however you choose to see it, will affect you in your subconscious. And now all of a sudden, I don't feel so good. I don't feel so good about myself. I don't really want to go out and socialize. I don't really want to, I don't really want to, you see? And then what happens? Then you start to go like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. And pretty soon you're like that. And this is defense. And this is, okay, I'm just going to hide in here. And this is a good place to hide because people hide in here. Their entire lives, they hide in here. And they operate like the Wizard of Oz. That small little wizard behind the big mask. And that small little wizard is vulnerable. Okay? So, what to do? understand that there are systems of things. Understand that the projection in your understanding, in your core beliefs, are formulated from all of these systems of things. Jesus Christ said, and I'm going to quote the literal translation as well as the storybook story. Okay? I will be with you until the end of the world. But when you look esoterically at the original text, it says, I will be with you until the end of these systems of things. Do these systems of things just collapse into themselves and go away? And then it's just you and Jesus? No. Not the way you think. The physical system, your physical system, this physical system, which is the opposer to this spiritual system, will come to an end. You are eternal in here. This is temporary. So, your understanding, the things that you stand under, the things that you believe, your moral compass, your moral values, what you consider to be moral, what you consider to be in alignment with what should be or how you would like to live life. All of these things play out into consciousness in the physical world. If you don't like the results you're getting out here, okay, because the universal law of correspondence says everything in here builds everything out here. Everything you own, all the friends you have. Look at the 5 friends around you. They tell your story. Why? Because like attracts like. Okay, like-minded individuals gather. Like attracts like. It's a vibration. It's a vibration in here that gathers. Does this have a vibration? Yes. Is it a lower vibration? And they're quoting scriptures and they're quoting this and that and the other thing, have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea. They are operating off of a story. And they perpetuate the story. Therefore, they worship the story instead of what's really being told. If you work off of the story, you're perpetuating the story. You're worshiping the story. When you break free of the hypnosis, when you break free of the story, guess what happens? The truth gets revealed. Why? Because underneath all of the conditioning, underneath all of the beliefs, whether you believe in God, believe in yourself, believe, whether you believe or don't believe, you're a believer in your subconscious. When you form a center point in your subconscious as a belief, your timeline corresponds. Okay? Corresponds to you. Timelines are not like this. This is conditioning. This is mental slavery. When you look at an encyclopedia and they show you, this is your time, oh, from here, then here, then here, then here, then here. That's not how timelines work. Time is an illusion. Time is a human construct. Is it necessary? Yes, it's necessary. We need to be organized as a society. But in that organization, within those parameters, whatever parameters they are, because they change, because times change, people change, things change. AI is going to wipe so many things from the future. It's going to revolutionize the future, but the things that we're used to, the things that we've enjoyed, the freedoms that we've had, will change. But don't forget that you can be in a system and not be of the system. You can be in the world and not of the world. Okay? Christians say, let go and let God. Let go of what? Let go of the physical world. Let go of the ideology. Let go of the prejudice. Let go of the... Let go, let go, let go. When you do this, you are walking by faith and not by sight. Why? Well, because you are trusting in the superconscious. That the superconscious will open the doors as you move forward, will bring the right amount of people, the right kind of people, and the exact people that can help you on your journey. Why? Because everything comes from God to us through others. Stage 7, and probably the most important, the global narrative conditioning. Mass formation psychosis. Your therapist is not going to explain these things to you. Because magicians don't explain the trick. If they did, you wouldn't go to magic shows anymore. Oh, okay, well, I saw all the tricks. I know how they're done. And okay, all right. I don't need to go anymore. No more magic tricks. But a lot of my clients, when they leave, like there was this one client, during the time that this was needed the most, to explain this the most, was during COVID. And I had a client during COVID. And work was so stressful for her. So stressful, okay? Pressure. In conjunction with isolation, in conjunction with mass formation psychosis, on a global scale that was happening, she was referred to me by a psychologist. There are 3 psychologists that I am aware of that send people to me because they get pulled out of their box. But the things that I teach them, they're not allowed by law to teach. Because there is a medical industrial complex. It is what it is. Nothing's wrong with it per se, unless you have beliefs about it. So I start to work on her with vocalization first, to pull her out so she can see the truth, and so the truth can set her free. And what happened? Oh, all of a sudden she started believing in herself. Oh, all of a sudden she saw the truth. What was the truth? The truth was that she was bound like this, right, to what people told her was her demons. The demons let go like that. The demons were like, okay, well, all right. See you later. See ya. Okay? And then what happened? Well, one day, because people don't normally tell me, but she told me who referred her. And one day I said, oh, how is so-and-so? Because he's a friend. He's a psychologist. He's a friend. And she said, and she was kind of like, like that. She said, I haven't seen him for 7 months now because this has changed my life. This has given me a new perspective. I've seen what the truth really is. Does this liberate a person permanently? Almost. But here's the funny thing about the truth. Okay? You can see the truth. Okay? The truth can set you free, but there are certain things that keep you bound even after you see the truth and you go, oh, okay, that's the truth. And And then slowly the blinders come back, slowly the veil comes back down, and now you're bound to the calendar, you're bound to the time, you're bound to the rules and regulations, you're bound to the corporation, you're bound to everyday life in the physical world. The Hasatan, the Satan, the opposition, the opposition of spirit. And then you have what is called the sunk cost fallacy. What is that? Real brief, because I have a meeting that I have to jump into, but really brief. When you experience cognitive dissonance, okay, when you've spent so much time and you invest that time in a principle, in a concept, in a degree, in a profession, in a title, in a job, you begin to identify. When you find out, in other words, let's say it another way, when the truth sets you free and you go, ah, that's what's really going on. Now you have a choice. And some people choose the sunk cost fallacy. Why? Because it's easier to go along and get along. It's easier to deny the truth and live the lie rather than go against the grain and tell the emperor he's walking around in his underwear. Even if it's to yourself, because you've been bound to that reality. Okay, so I have to go. Thank you guys. Define the truth. We'll talk about that tomorrow. That's a very good thing. That's a very good thing. Yeah, this is probably above your pay grade straight, but yeah. Okay. Yep. So anyway, we'll get into a more detailed explanation tomorrow. We will continue. Okay. And yep. See you guys tomorrow, and aloha from Hawaii, and take care. We will see